Hey guys, it's Jordan with your weekly Oakwood Student Ministry video. As always, I hope you are doing very well. We're going to start a new series this week, week 1 of More to the Story. And I'll explain what that means as we get going. To start, I want to just talk movies. I love movies. I think most people do. Marvel movies was a big thing, that cinematic universe. I think it's kind of petered out, but I really enjoyed that. Some of you like scary movies, not my thing. My wife's all into Disney movies. That quality's kind of gone down as of late, but still a good, back catalog in the franchise for sure. But we all love movies to an extent, and you like what you like, I like what I like, and it's really cool that there's so many different expressions through movies we get to enjoy. Now, let's talk about something else with movies. Movie trailers. I love watching these things. I stayed up in bed last week with my phone for like 50 minutes watching a long compilation of all the big trailers for movies coming out. I guess to cinema and streaming now, but either way, my wife made fun of me. But it's just fun, like the epic action movies, the fade to black, the boom sound, comedies with the one-liner that make you think it might be funny, scary movies that you don't want to go see because it looks too scary from the preview. Now, again, I don't have an intention of seeing 90% of the movies that I see the trailers for, but I just like the experience of seeing the trailer. But here's what I know for a fact. There's always more to the story than the trailer lets on. It wouldn't make sense for the trailer to show you and tell you everything in the movie. Sometimes they do, and people don't go see the movie. It's like, well, I already saw it. I saw your trailer. Godzilla vs. King Kong is coming out. I might go see that actually. And they're trying to make Godzilla the bad guy, and he's been the good guy in the other movies leading up to this. But there's more going on. I bet there's Mecha Godzilla or somebody in there who's the real bad guy. Just you wait. They're going to team up. It'll be a buddy cop movie with Godzilla and King Kong. It'll be the greatest thing to hit theaters ever. Anyway, sometimes you see movies and you see the trailer for a movie, and it builds it up, and you get hyped. And then you go see it, and it's kind of meh. Like they used all the good parts of the movie in the trailer, so they had nothing left. The rest of the movie was garbage. There was more to the story, it just wasn't good. Okay, so we got that idea. We're sold something, we're told something, we go see it, and whether good or bad, there's more to the story than we were led on. That's what we're going to be talking about in the series for the next few weeks. See, there's a part of life we all have an idea about, that we're being advertised to everywhere about this. Everybody has an opinion, everybody has a take, everybody has perspective, and we often find out in our own lives that there's more to the story than the previews let on. And we are talking about sex. I know, in a church, when you say that, it gets a little weird, it gets awkward, but here's why I think we should talk about it. Everybody else is. I wish growing up my church talked about it more so I would know the proper view of it. Because singers sing about it, rappers rap about it. Netflix doesn't avoid it. It's everywhere on TikTok. Magazines at the grocery stores have 13, advice tips for you. Movies use it as a selling point. It's taught at school in a very graphic way. Your friends are joking about it. And some of you wish your families would stop trying to have that talk with you. You're hearing about it everywhere. So shouldn't the church be speaking about it? Now, some of you put the walls up, say, hey, I already know what you're going to say, preacher man, even if you haven't been to church, right? You probably think you know what I'm going to say, that God cares a lot about your sex life. But sometimes guys go overboard and they act like God hates sex, or God's mad about sex, and that's the story, or God only cares about virginity. If you screwed up, you're out of the group, the clan. It's like, that's not the story. If any of that was true, it would bring up more questions like, is it bad that you're even thinking about it? Is it bad that you want sex? Can I do things other than actual sex, Bill Clinton? You say, I know people who've had sex, none of them died. Is it really that big of a deal? What if you messed up? You crossed lines. Are you doomed? Or what if somebody crossed lines against you, against your permission, against your consent? What does that mean for you? What does God think of that? What do you do now? Maybe you're on this end of the spectrum. You're like, hey, dude, I can't even get a guy or girl to say hi to me. I'm not worried about sex right now. Should you skip, this series? No. I think the clarification, the context, the more to the story that we're going to talk about from God's word is going to be so helpful and illuminating going forward. And it might surprise you. I know it's a loaded topic, but I don't want us to think God only cares about one thing and he's mad and he's angry and virginity and all that kind of stuff. Yes, there's clarification that needs to happen here. But as we get started, I want to paint an accurate picture of God's view for sex as we start this series. Because when it comes to God's plan for sex, there's more to the story than our culture lets on and even some churches have let on. And we're going to go to our Bibles, as always, to find out. So one of the things I find amazing about every time we go to the Bible is how stories, experiences, questions of people thousands of years ago can be so helpful and relevant for us today. So we're going to be looking at a letter the Apostle Paul wrote to Christians in Corinth. Now, because of where Corinth was located, people often passed through on their way to go make money in business ventures elsewhere. So Corinth became known as a place to party, to misbehave before you headed off to other things. It's basically Las Vegas. What happens in Corinth stays in Corinth. You go there, you hang out, you party, you get wild. Doesn't sound so foreign to our culture, does it? But what if you were a Christian living in Las Vegas or living in Corinth? A lot of these guys had questions about what does it mean to live a Christian life, to follow Jesus in this culture, in this context. We could say that about most places in America today, sadly. So Paul writes this letter, and he covers all sorts of topics about how to live. And he talks a lot about the topic of sex. But when he first starts the conversation, this is how he begins. This is how I want to hone in for kind of the foundation of this series. In 1 Corinthians 6:12, Paul says this, I have the right to do anything. Now, if you read this too fast, you might think, I can get in a lot of trouble if that's my motto. But he wasn't saying that. He's actually quoting a phrase that was true in Corinth. It's like the YOLO of the Corinthians. I can do whatever I want, basically, is what they would say. Like, no laws, no rules, nothing can stop me from fulfilling my passions and desires. So Paul says, this is what he says in 1 Corinthians 6, I have the right to do anything you say. He puts quotes around it. You say you can do anything you want. He says, but not everything is beneficial. Not everything is helpful. Not everything is a good idea. Then he quotes him again. I have the right to do anything. He says, but me, I'm not going to be mastered by anything. I'm not going to be a slave to my passions, my desires. Bump that. I'm bigger than that. So Paul speaks right to the Corinthian culture and really our world today and says, look, I know it's popular to do whatever you want. I know no holds barred. Hey, it's your life. Do what you want. Live how you want. I know that's how you Corinthians and you Americans think and act. He says, but just because you can doesn't automatically mean you should. In a particular sexual culture like Corinth, Paul reminds them, just because you can do it doesn't mean it's what's best for you. And we have to acknowledge that that's true. We don't know that just because we can, it's best. I think the same thing is absolutely true about sex today. I really do. I think so many of us, our lives would be easier, less complicated, less stressful if we stopped asking the question, can I do this and get away with it and not get in trouble? Can I do this without getting caught? Instead, if we started asking the simple question, is this best for me? Is this best for my life? Is this best for my future? In fact, learning to think what's best over what's normal, that's part of growing up. It's part of being a mature adult who sees more than just right now, who knows there's more to the story of your life than how you feel in a particular moment. There's also more to the story I want to cover. So first off, we have to acknowledge we need some perspective here. And through this series, we're going to talk a lot about perspective on sex. There's more to the story. But there's also almost always someone else involved when it comes to matters of sex. And whether you're thinking about someone sexually, behaving with someone sexually, or consuming sexual content through media, there's always somebody else involved. And you can't just think about yourself. Let me say that again. You can't just think about yourself. You shouldn't just ask, is this best for me? But is this best for we, everybody involved? Is this a good thing? Or am I profiting off of somebody else's pain and misery? You see, as Jesus followers, this isn't optional. You have to think this way. In Matthew 22, Jesus is asked to sum up the entire Bible. He says, love God with all your heart, soul, mind, strength. And then he says, love your neighbor as yourself. Like, this is foundational to being a follower of Jesus, to being a Christian. You have to ask, is this good for their future? Is this good for their mood? Is this good for them right now? Is this ultimately be a good thing for their reputation, their integrity, their walk with Jesus? Is not just, is this good for me? Because we can lie to ourselves. We can convince ourselves, oh yeah, that'll be great. It'll feel good. It'll be good. No problem. You really stop to think, is this going to be good for them? It makes you think about it a little differently. All right, big picture. Jesus came to tell us what God was like. And this is key to God cares so much about others, how others are treated, because he cares about us all. He cares about you. And so he doesn't hate sex. You can't look at the Bible and come to that conclusion. In fact, read Genesis 1 and 2. God made Adam and Eve. Everything was good. I mean, he made Adam, then he made him a beautiful woman. He officiated the first wedding. And then he says, guys, have fun. I'll see you later. Like, he didn't come back and be like, what are you doing? Like, he designed sex. He designed it to be fun, to be pleasurable, for us to be attracted to one another. He designed it all. Just like eating tastes good, it feels good to eat. God designed it. It's a blessing he gave us. See, historically, human culture gets overboard with sex. We're not that complicated. We're pretty dumb. We just follow our passions and desires. And so we make sex our own little God, and we serve it and we worship it. And so the church, unfortunately, overreacts and says, oh, well, if you think sex is a god, we're going to say sex is gross. Sex is wrong. I mean, the Catholic Church started marking days off the calendar where people weren't allowed to have sex because those were holy days. By the time they were done, there were more days on the calendar a married couple could not have sex than could. This wasn't a high view of sex they had. And so these two polar extremes. And in the middle, God's word simply says, no. Sex is a gift. It's not a god, and it's not gross. It's a gift from God in the proper context. What's the proper context? Covenant marriage between a husband and a wife. And in that context, it's a blessing. It's a good thing. It unites the husband and wife. They have fun. They have pleasure. They have children. It's nothing but a good thing in the confines of marriage. And so you want to become the kind of person who has that perspective, who knows what's best, and doesn't just take now in the moment. You have a view of your future, and you have a view of somebody else. You want to bless them. And if you become this kind of person, here's what's awesome. Your friendships, your family, your dating relationships will all benefit from you being the kind of person who has a perspective on your future and looks out for the best interest of somebody else, especially somebody you're dating. Who wouldn't want to be in a dating relationship with somebody like that? And here's what's awesome. Being in a marriage relationship, in a trusted covenant marriage with my wife, who we both look for the best, God's best for us in the future, and we look for the best for each other in the marriage, that translates to sex. Because right now, the sex people are having outside of covenant marriage, it's all selfish. They're just trying to take. They have no idea, what it really means. They don't know what a touch is. Over here in covenant marriage, a bond, a trust, a legacy, that's real sex. And two people who come together, who love Jesus and love each other and want to serve each other, they do surveys and they find out the happiest, most satisfied people in sex are not the people in Corinth or Las Vegas running around partying. It's the people in covenant marriage, the little old ladies who have been the same person for 50 years. They're the most satisfied. Maybe God knows what he's talking about here. But see, we all want mutual love and respect. We all want someone we can trust to have our back. And we all want to be and have the kind of friends, boyfriends, girlfriends, and eventually husbands and wives who do that, who look out for our future, even when we're not doing the best job of it ourselves. That's why you want to set yourself up. You want to follow Jesus, and you want to follow the instruction and wisdom of Paul that's modeled after Jesus about the best way to live life, including sex. Now, wanting to live this way and actually living this way, two different things. I mean, there's feelings, there's desires, there's temptations, there's weakness, and some of you have acted on those. Some of you, like I said, have been acted upon. And if that's you, I'm so sorry. It's not your fault. But either way, whatever your experience, I want you to know your past actions do not dictate your future. You or someone else, whatever you did, it doesn't have to determine what you do next. Here's why. As followers of Jesus today, We can and we should all be people of sexual integrity. Now, that's not a common term. Here's what it means. Integrity is somebody who's trustworthy, who's honest, who looks out for others, whose beliefs and words match their actions. And so just like you can be a person of integrity in your family, and your friends, and your academics, you can and should be a person of integrity in your sex life. No matter your past, it doesn't matter. Sexual integrity is about more than saving sex until marriage and supporting or feeling guilty for crossing lines you shouldn't, and you should, step away from the hot stove. But it's choosing to honor God in everything you do and love others in how you think, about how you treat and value other people in all areas of life, including sex. This is the best way to live, and it translates to every area, including sex. All right, so if you're still with me, the question is, how do you become a person of sexual integrity? See, integrity is about the person you want to be, and you can always choose to live with sexual integrity starting now. Nothing you've done or has been done to you in the past can change that or take that away. Now, some of you might be thinking, all right, this all sounds nice. Can you just tell me where the line is? Like, I want to do right. What are the boundaries? What's the line? And I mean, if you want an answer to that question, everybody's got a different one. I'll tell you the one I found to be completely true. I wouldn't do anything other than light kissing before marriage, because everything else just leads to trouble. And so that would be the line if you're looking for one. And again, there's no shortage of people, but that's not really the question I want you asking. It's a good question to ask, but the question I want you to wrestle with as you talk to people, as you talk to God, you listen to older, wiser people, all that, is what kind of person do you want to be? I'm not just talking about a moment or how to avoid trouble or not get caught. It's not just a decision. I'm asking, what kind of person, what kind of integrity do you want to have? What kind of reputation do you want? What kind of legacy do you want to live? What kind of person do you want to be? And the kind of person I want to be is one who honors God and loves others in all areas of life. So when it comes to sexual integrity, here's a few things to help. Number one, talk to God. Go to His Word, read about God's perspective on sex. Again, we have 3 more weeks of this series, and I'll get into the nitty-gritty. Next week, we're talking about pornography, so that'll be fun. Pray for me. But God cares about you, all areas of you, including your sex life. And so it might seem awkward, but talk to Him. Pray. I believe when you pray, He listens. And when you listen to Him, He'll lead you. He'll guide you through His Word, through others. Even if you're new to this whole church thing, just try this. And I'm telling you, God will give you wisdom and a perspective to help you live life the right way. And that's what we want. Number 2, talk to another person. Talk to someone you trust about how you plan to become the person you want to be in all areas of life, including sexual integrity. Your small group leaders, trusted adults, they're great places to go. You're not going to shock them. You're not going to tell them anything they probably haven't heard before. See, integrity is rarely something you need to hide. And so I'm glad we have groups, and I hope you're bold and you can talk in your group about issues and temptations. But also, if you need to go one-on-one, me, the other leaders, we're all happy to. We've been there, we know what you're up against, and we know what good can come out of living with sexual integrity. All right, just imagine for a second if you accepted this invitation to lead your life in a way that's better than that you can even imagine right now. If you chose a way of life that says, all right, I don't have the full picture, maybe there's more to the story, and maybe God has something better for me than what the culture is selling me. What if you decided, I'm going to walk in integrity in all areas of life, including sexually, and I'm going to love others and say, no, I'm going to do what's best for you. Maybe that's getting out of this situation. Imagine if you did that. I think you would have healthier relationships, you'd have fewer regrets, you'd go into marriage, and you get to dive in and enjoy the good thing God made. It's all upsides and no downs in my mind. All right, we're going to talk more. If you have questions, and I'm sure you do, reach out, feel free. We'll be here every Wednesday at 6:30 in the room talking about this and go into the group where you can discuss it. All right, guys, hope you're doing well. As always, love you. Bye.